BOM and change management. So in this demonstration, we're going to start in Vault, right? We've got an inventor assembly here. It's got a sub-assembly and some parts related to it. There's a drawing of it. There's a PDF of that drawing. And I'm actually going to use the Vault Professional item functionality to extract the bill of materials from that CAD file, right? And that honored, I don't know if it's kind of quick there, but that honors things like Inventor Phantom assemblies where the children of that bolted connection get promoted up to its level. And now we have a record in Vault here for that. And notice that column right there, Fusion Manage Sync Status. This is something I'm guessing, unless you're very plugged in to the Autodesk world, most of you have never seen this before, this field in Vault. This is a new feature as of 2026.1. Vault is a built-in dedicated connector that will allow you to synchronize Vault item master data to Fusion Manage, right? And I can do that in a couple different ways. I can manually sync to Fusion Manage, or I can just have it trigger automatically on a state change. And that's what we do here. When I put this into review, behind the scenes, the Vault server will communicate with Fusion Manage, and after a few seconds, it will have synchronized that data up to the cloud, right? Now, if I try to do it on demand, it's almost instant from what I've seen. If you do it on a lifecycle state change, it sort of queues that stuff up and does it periodically. But now this information and its bill of materials and the related documents have all been synchronized to Fusion Manage, right? Information about the Vault, right? But then all of the other information about this part number as well. Classification information, supplier information on that can now be added to that record, right? So the bill of materials you see there in Vault, you see that exact same bill of materials over here in Fusion Manage, right? And yesterday, it took me literally 10 minutes to set up that connection. It automatically also copied the PDF up, and if I had had DWFs created, it would have synchronized those up too, right? I didn't have those done, forgot to do that, right? So this is me making the DWFs right now, and then I can just now synchronize that on demand to Fusion Manage. If I do one record at a time, it'll be a little pop-up over there saying, hey, your record got synced, and I can click that link to go right to the record. And now a simple refresh, you can see we've got our DWF and our PDF. This allows us to do markups and store those markups in Fusion Manage. So I will say this Vault connector, I think it is fantastic. And it was, I would say, the final piece of the puzzle to make Vault PLM an environment and not just two different products you could buy together. Vault PLM as a solution, in my mind, is now a complete solution. Right. So be it the model, be it the drawing, you can do your markups on the drawing. And again, that information flows along in the change process, right? Which now we need to execute because we haven't released anything yet. So I'm going to use, in this case, the quick releases workflow, which is basically a very simple method that lets me just essentially release part numbers in Fusion Manage. There is an optional review step, but if you just need to track BOMs and get things released and revise them, there's a very simple workflow, right? Now I need to release all of the children as well, right? So I can very quickly just add all of those children to this same change. Now, if you're familiar with change orders in Vault, if you've ever looked into that behavior, this is somewhat similar in a basic idea where you've got a record, in this case, a quick change, that controls the release of other records. And that's what we're doing here. We're saying those 7 things need to be released. And again, very simple workflow. You can have an approval step, or if you've got permission, you can just perform a quick release. And now all of those things are released as Rev A. So just like that, in what, 3 minutes or something, you know, we have extracted our bill of materials from our CAD file, synchronized it to Fusion Manage, and now we've got released part numbers, right? Now, what you saw there at first was an engineering view. Like, I'm an engineer, I did all that stuff, I made sure the BOM was right, I released it. For people that just need to look at things, viewing is free, right? You can get basic access for free. All you need is an Autodesk ID, right? So on the left is my, say, someone on the shop floor. On the right is an engineer, and you see all of these choices I have as an engineer. If I'm just on the shop floor, I have one choice. I can look at part numbers. That's all I can do. It's as simple as it gets. There are no other choices, right? If I need to look for a specific part number, I can search for that part number up in the box, right? I'll get a search result, and I can see Rev A of this part, and only Rev A. I cannot see anything else, right? And if I'm allowed to, I can see the files as well. Now, notice an engineer always has access to a working version as well. So you can use Fusion Manage both to manage information, but also provide a means for someone to access it, regardless of their function. If it's as simple as just I need to view one type of thing, or I need access to a whole host of things, right? So now let's say we need to make a revision to this part. That's where something like a change order would come in. Now, normally in a change process, a more involved change process, you would start with maybe a request that gets reviewed that then leads to a change order. In the interest of time, we're just doing a change order here, right? So there are a whole host of fields about this change order. Again, all of this is configurable. We recommend that most folks start with the default configuration, which is very good. Everything you're seeing here today is essentially you turn on Fusion Manage and this is what it looks like and this is how it works, right? And the idea of this change order is we have the concept of templates, change types. I just have one simple type here, and that type of change may have one or more tasks related to it. You can also create tasks ad hoc on a change order, but the idea is anything that a person needs to do to make this change order complete, you can add as a task, you know, other than approvals, right? So I need to update the CAD documents here. So I'm adding a task, assigning it to myself. I'm providing some items for reference, and I'm saying, you know, on the next field over, I can say, here's specifically the thing that needs to change, right? Here's the thing that you need to update in this case. And then I can also give it a start date and a completion date, right? So we can keep track of when things are due and when they're overdue, right? And estimate maybe how much effort we think it's going to take, right? Now it's assigned to me, right? I assigned it to myself. And now that I've prepared this thing to go, I can initiate the tasks and automation behind the scenes. You know, as the coordinator, I can advance that to get the tasks kicked off, right? So I can go to my workflow, say we're ready to start doing the work. If I can learn how to type. And that's going to create a task record, assign it to me, and now it's going to be on my work list, right? So now we're in the perform change. We've got a task and, importantly, a record in the system that is now tracked and has its own little workflow, right? So it's assigned to me. I'm also the reviewer in this case to make things easy, right? I can see here's the thing that I'm supposed to change. I can get to that record easily. This could take me right to the thing in Vault. But most importantly, maybe, I now have something on my work list with a due date. So I can see exactly what I need to do and when I need to do it. And no one had to come tell me to do this or send me an email that gets lost. It's in the system, right? So now I come back to my Vault, you know, I take the item back into a work in progress state. We're only like changing the quantity of something here. So it's only going to be the assembly part number, right? And I do some work in Inventor. I think we're going to kind of skip forward a little bit here. right? We're adjusting some quantities of bolts in here, right? Our drawing updates. I update my item in Vault that adjusts the bill of materials, right? And now I just say, okay, I'm done. Notice it knows, Vault knows that it's not current, right? And it knows it's going to need to sync again. And when I go into review, it will resynchronize and update the bill of materials in Fusion Manage. Now I go straight to Fusion Manage from Vault, right? And now my working version, that is my pending revision, has an updated bill of materials, right? And I can confirm that here by doing a BOM comparison, right? So I'm comparing my working version, which is what my pending changes, to Rev A, and I can see that I've added a quantity of 4 of this new fastener, right? And anyone with access to PLM can see this. They don't have to go to Vault. They don't have to open a CAD file. They don't have to look at 2 different versions and try to compare. It's right there. Right. Now, I need to get back to my task to say I'm done. I've got a quick link right there, and I just have to come to my task. I'm also the reviewer in this case, so I got to take a couple of steps. You know, I forgot to actually, as the person doing this task, I forgot to acknowledge that I received the task, right? But now I did the work, so I can say that I'm done, right? Since I'm the reviewer and the person doing the work, I can submit it for review to myself. And then I can say I'm done with it, right? Now what that has done, if we go back to our change order, which is directly linked to this record, this was the task for that change, we can see on our list now, we've got something that needs to change. And we're going to do a production revision on this. Right? And it automatically advanced when I finished the last task to results review. And then the rest of this is boring, just approvals, right? As the checker, I say everything looks good. I'm the sole approver in this case. You can have multiple approvers, right? That's what that sort of approve arrow is you can have like multiple approvers based on your change type. You can add additional approvers. But the way this works, the way the default configuration works, is it's a group approval. Once every person has done their approval, it advances. So it's not one speaking for everyone. In this case, if I have 5 approvers, all 5 of them have to say okay, right? And now what we see, we have Rev B effective. If we go back to just the viewer view and refresh my page, I can't even look at it. Even if I had saved the link, I can't get to it. I'm not allowed to see it, Rev A anymore, right? I need to, in this case, you know, search for it again because Rev A wasn't valid. You know, normally you wouldn't have Rev A up, you know, for 5 days while you're making Rev B. But now, you know, I can see that that change is effective in production. Now, keep in mind, all of those workflows that you saw, all of those are completely configurable. What you saw was a default configuration. I think it works very well. I think it's a very good thing to implement. But if it's a little too much for you, it can be scaled back. If you need a little bit more, it can be added to, right? It just depends on what you need. Again, we recommend that most folks start with the default workflows to get a handle on the system and then start looking for ways to make changes if you need to.